Welcome to the next of our studies into Christianity. We're now looking at miracles, and this is the first of a two-part presentation. 500 years before Christ, Euripides wrote about his god Dionysus. If you'd been there and seen these wonders for yourself, you would have gone down on your knees and prayed to the God you now deny. Was Christianity new? Was Christianity unique? For us, and for the ancients, supernatural doings do imply supernatural power. But what you're about to learn is that in the ancient world, supernatural doings, miracles, weren't rare. Miracles were just how the world worked. You can't explain Jesus' miracles until you understand that. Now we know that Jesus' miracles were not new, and they were not unique. Now we know Jesus was one of dozens of ancient divine men who did miracles, and he did the same miracles they did. Jesus' story fits seamlessly into ancient culture. Jesus' story comes from ancient culture. Let's start with a few examples. Jesus' spittle cures a blind man. In John 9 we read, "And as Jesus passed by, he saw a man which was blind from birth. When he had thus spoken, he spat on the ground, and made clay of the spittle, and he anointed the eyes of the blind man with the clay, and said unto him, Go wash in the pool of Siloam. He went his way therefore, and washed, and came seeing." In his book The Histories, the Roman writer Tacitus tells us of the Emperor Vespasian's spittle curing a blind man. At Alexandria, a commoner, whose eyes were well known to have wasted away, fell at Vespasian's feet, demanding with sobs a cure for his blindness, and imploring that the emperor would deign to moisten his eyes and eyeballs with the spittle from his mouth. Vespasian did as the man desired him. Immediately the hand recovered its functions, and daylight shone once more in the blind man's eyes. Those who were present still attest both miracles today, when there is nothing to gain by lying. Raising a dead girl. These two miracle stories share more than a punchline. Both have a setup showing the girls really are dead, or appear to be. Both girls are cured with magic words. Both only appeared to be dead, a recurrent theme of contemporary novels. Both stories end with details that prove the girls really did recover. The structure of the stories is the same. The 1st century AD God-man, Jesus, uses magic words to raise a girl from death. She was only asleep. In Mark 5, we read, Jairus' daughter was apparently dead. Jesus told him, Don't be afraid, just believe. Jesus saw a commotion, with people crying and wailing loudly. He said to them, Why all this commotion and wailing? The child is not dead, but asleep. He took the child's father and mother, and went in where the child was. He took her by the hand and said to her, Talitha cum, which means, Little girl, I say to you, get up. Immediately the girl stood up and walked around. Now compare that with the story of the 1st century AD godman Apollonius of Tyana, using magic words to raise a girl from death. She was only asleep. A girl had died just in the hour of her marriage, and the whole of Rome was mourning, for the maiden belonged to a consular family. Apollonius, then witnessing their grief, said, I will stay the tears that you are shedding for this maiden. He merely touched her, and whispering in secret some spell over her, at once woke up the maiden from her seeming death, and the girl spoke out loud, and returned to her father's house, just as Alcestis did when she was brought back to life by Hercules. Here are two ancient stories in which a miracle heals a cripple, who then picks up his bed and walks away. Lucian explains, the element of picking up the bed proved how strong the spell was, and how potent the magician. Phrases like invalid for 38 years and mortal anguish and brought back to life prove how sick the victim was. Each magic worker cures with a magic spell. The God-man Jesus uses magic words to cure a paralytic, who picks up his bed and walks away. A Babylonian miracle worker uses magic words to cure a paralytic, who picks up his bed and walks away. In John's Gospel, chapter 5, Some time later, Jesus went up to Jerusalem. Now there is in Jerusalem a pool, and here a great number of disabled people used to lie, the blind, the lame, the paralysed. One who was there had been an invalid for 38 years. When Jesus saw him lying there and learned that he'd been in this condition for a long time, he asked him, "Do you want to get well?" Then Jesus said to him, "Get up, pick up your mat and walk." At once the man was cured. He picked up his mat and walked. In the book of Lucian we read, "I was still a young lad when someone came and told my father that Midas, a strong and industrious servant, had been bitten by a viper and was lying down, with his leg already in a state of mortification, and he was groaning in mortal anguish. We saw Midas himself being brought up on a litter by his fellow slaves, all swollen and livid, with a clammy skin, and but little breath left in him. The Babylonian came and brought Midas back to life, driving the poison out of his body by a spell, and also binding upon his foot a fragment which he broke from a tombstone. Perhaps this is nothing out of the common, although Midas himself picked up the bed on which he had been carried, and went off to the farm, so potent was the spell and the fragment of the tombstone. Another common element to these stories is that we see tricks to prove the demons had left. Josephus writes, "And when Eliezer would persuade and demonstrate to the spectators that he had such a power, he set a little way off a cup or basin full of water, and commanded the demon as he went out of the man to overturn it, and thereby to let the spectators know that he had left the man." In the Gospel of Matthew, "And the demons begged him, 'If you cast us out, send us away into the herd of swine.' And he said to them, 'Go.' So they came out and went into the swine, and behold, the whole herd rushed down the steep bank into the sea, and perished in the waters." Now about walking on water, in the Gospel of John chapter 6 we read, "When they had rowed about 3 or 4 miles, they saw Jesus walking on the sea, and drawing near to the boat. They were frightened, but he said to them, 'It is I, do not be afraid.'" Lucian writes, "You're joking," said Cleodemus. "I myself was formerly more incredulous than you in regard to such things, for I thought it in no way possible that they could happen. But when first I saw the foreign stranger, I believed and was conquered after long resistance. What was I to do when I saw him soar through the air in broad daylight, and walk on the water, and go through fire slowly on foot? 'Did you see that,' said I, 'he flying or stepping on the water?' 'Certainly,' said he, 'with brogues on his feet, such as people of that country commonly wear.'" Nowadays people seem to find prophecy miracles especially persuasive. Pagan prophecy miracles were everyday events. They were so common that great public institutions were built around them. Yet, funny thing, it seems the people who are persuaded by Jesus' fulfillment of prophecy are never persuaded by pagan fulfillment of prophecy. Why do you think that is? The ancients saw miracles differently from how we do. For us, miracles are exceptional. They need explanation. For the ancients, miracles were just how the world worked. The ancients didn't have Newton's laws and Maxwell's equations to explain the world. They had spirits and powers. Gods had lots of power. People had a little. People could get extra power. Magicians and soothsayers had a bit extra. Some gods brought divine power to their followers. Dionysus is one example, but he was just one of many. Pagan miracles. 1. There were a lot of them, tens of thousands. 2. Pagans understood miracles one way, God's magic. And 3. The pagans made up miracles, added them to their stories as a way of adding meaning. Christian miracles. 1. There were a lot of them. 2. The Christians understood their miracles one way, God's magic. And 3. The Christians also believed pagan miracles were real. They believed the pagan miracles were done by demons. 4. The Christians made up miracles, added them to their stories as a way of adding meaning. In the second part, we'll see how miracles were common currency in ancient times. and we'll see a simple example of how a miracle story can be invented.